Imagine this. There's a wound in your heart, one you've hidden for so long you've forgotten how it even began. But on quiet nights, or in moments when everything else fades, it stings. And the strangest part is, you don't know if you want to heal it, or if it's the only proof that you're still alive. What if I told you that the part of you you've tried hardest to suppress, that trembling, broken, aching part, is also the doorway to your deepest transformation? You've probably heard phrases like let go of the past, heal and move on, or don't dwell on your wounds. But what if those ideas are only half the truth? What if healing isn't about erasing the wound, but about owning it, fully, consciously, painfully, until it reveals something hidden underneath? You've spent years trying to be strong, resilient, unbreakable. You've layered masks upon masks, the competent one, the optimistic one, the one who never cries. And yet, deep down, something feels disconnected, like you're living behind glass, like you're performing life, not inhabiting it. So let me ask you this. Who are you really when all the masks fall away? What if the wound you've been trying to avoid, the betrayal, the failure, the loss, the shame, isn't your enemy, but your greatest teacher? And if that's true, why are we so afraid to look? Why do we flinch from the pain when it might be the only thing still honest within us? Could it be that your suffering isn't proof of your weakness, but the very seed of your awakening? Or is it possible that in the exact spot where you broke, where everything collapsed, a kind of light is waiting to be born? This isn't about spiritual cliches or self-help slogans. This is about a quiet revolution inside you, one that begins not with denying pain, but by walking straight into it. Naked, willing, awake. Because only then can you ask the real question, not how do I heal this, but what is this pain trying to show me about who I truly am? And maybe, just maybe, the wound isn't what broke you. Maybe it's what's been trying to wake you up all along. Now, are you ready to see what lies beyond it? The reason you avoid that wound isn't because you're weak. It's because you were taught, from a very young age, that pain is wrong, that tears are a failure, that anger is dangerous, that sadness is a flaw to be fixed as quickly as possible. In this cultural narrative, you were never taught how to face your pain, only how to bury it. But Carl Jung once said something deeply unsettling. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. You thought you were suppressing a memory, a trauma. But what's truly been buried is the unfinished version of yourself. This isn't just a psychological process. It's a compression and distortion of the soul. You built mental walls to protect yourself from being hurt again. But in doing so, you also blocked out the light. Pain was locked away in the dungeon of your subconscious, mutating into midnight anxiety, nameless emptiness, or a cold distance that makes intimacy feel impossible. The more you disconnect from your wounds, the more alienated you become from life itself. Because life is not a smooth, perfect surface. It's made of those fractured places that still dare to beat. Schopenhauer once said, "Life is suffering. We weren't born to escape suffering, but to understand it." But that understanding isn't intellectual. It isn't about flooding your mind with psychological terms to explain trauma mechanisms. It's about facing it, admitting it, letting yourself sink into that black hole. Not to be lost, but to move through. And to move through it, you'll need brutal honesty. You must have the courage to ask yourself, why do I always shrink at the moment that matters most? Why can't I believe I'm worthy of being loved? Why do I feel no passion for the future, yet carry so much bitterness toward the present? On the surface, these may look like emotional issues, personality flaws. You might even label them introversion, avoidant attachment, trauma response. But the deeper truth is this: you were trained too well, trained to suppress your real feelings, trained to smooth out the sharp edges of your soul, trained to become exactly what society expected you to be. But have you ever truly asked yourself, what if I've never actually been me? Zen says, when delusion ends, your true face appears. Real awakening doesn't add anything to you. It strips away what never belonged. but you can't let go of what's false until you first acknowledge how it was built. Acknowledgement is the beginning of revolution. And owning your wounds, not to let them define you, but to reclaim the raw power buried beneath them. That is the first step toward reconnecting with the light of who you truly are. Because only those who have walked through their own hell can ever taste real freedom. You think your pain is hidden. You think that by not talking about it, it won't affect you. But what if the exact opposite is true? What if everything you avoid secretly directs your entire life? Like an invisible hand, your unhealed wounds shape the words you can't say, the love you cannot receive, the boundaries you don't set, and the dreams you no longer dare to touch. You wonder why you sabotage your own joy, why you keep choosing people who hurt you, why you give your energy to things that deplete you, why you feel numb in moments that should feel alive. But here's the truth most never tell you. The wound doesn't stay in the past. It becomes the architect of your present. What you suppress, you don't erase. You just bury it in a darker room where it waits, until you're tired, until you're vulnerable, until you're alone in the silence of your own mind. Then it surfaces, as anxiety, overthinking, aggression, or a chronic need to control everything. That's not just trauma. That's a survival strategy that's gone rogue. Your brain, in its effort to protect you, rewires your behavior. It starts avoiding risk, avoiding truth, avoiding you. And when you avoid yourself long enough, you begin to feel like a stranger in your own skin. This is the cost of unowned wounds. You become a ghost living someone else's life, and society rewards that ghost. The one who doesn't cry, doesn't complain, doesn't make things too emotional. You become functional, but deep down, you're empty. Even your goals become infected. You chase success not because you love it, but because you think achievement will finally prove you're enough. You chase relationships not to share love, but to fix what was once broken. You chase peace, but only as a way to silence the storm you never faced. Can you see the trap now? Your entire life becomes a series of reactions to pain you never confronted. And the worst part is, you begin to mistake all this for your identity. But that's not you. That's the wound speaking through you. A childhood betrayal echoing through every apology you didn't owe. A moment of abandonment replaying through every relationship you can't trust. A silenced scream frozen into every time you say, "I'm fine." You are not fine. And that realization, though terrifying, is the most honest thing you've ever felt. Because only when you admit you are not okay can you finally start healing in a way that's real. Not with motivational quotes, not with denial, but with presence, with truth, with the willingness to stop running. Because the longer you flee from that shadow, the longer you live under its rule. And if you don't own your wound will own your life. So the real question is no longer, does this wound affect me? But rather, how much of my life has been shaped by something I refuse to look at? And what could I become if I finally did? Every time you choose not to run away, it marks the beginning of your rebirth. You thought that facing your wounds would destroy you, but you'll discover what truly hurts you was never the wound itself, but the years you spent resisting it. True healing isn't about returning to who you used to be. It's about becoming who you were never allowed to be. You begin asking yourself different questions. Not, why am I such a mess? But, is this reaction something I learned to protect myself? Not, why do I keep ruining everything? But, did past experiences teach me to avoid risk, and today, can I choose a different path for myself? These subtle shifts in thought are no longer about becoming a better person, but about finally becoming yourself. You begin to hold yourself with care. In every emotional spiral, you gently whisper, "I understand. I've touched an old wound again." You start setting boundaries, not because you hate others, but because you finally believe you are worthy of being respected. You stop using overwork to numb yourself. Stop using people-pleasing to earn love. Stop using coldness to hide the truth that deep down, you long to be seen and understood. You no longer live according to the old script. You start writing your own. This is rebirth, not some grand transformation, but the small, repeated choices made each day. The choice to sit with your pain, to refuse the voices that once drowned you in shame, to believe that even if you've been broken, you are still worthy of love, worthy of light. No one can walk this path for you. This is your soul's laboratory, your inner alchemy. You're not here to destroy your wounded self, but to embrace and allow that part of you to be seen. You no longer need to be perfect to deserve to exist. You no longer need to be fixed to live a meaningful life. You just need the willingness to walk with yourself. Because that willingness, that alone, is light. When you finally stop chasing perfection, you realize the light you've been searching for was never gone. It's always been within you. It was there in the eyes of the crying child you once were, hidden behind the emotions you tried to suppress, glowing in every moment you stood back up after falling. You were taught to suppress your vulnerability, to deny your wounds. But no one ever told you. The very cracks you tried to erase are where the light finds its way in. You thought you had to heal completely before you could be loved, before you could dream again. But the truth is, life was never about being fully healed. Life moves forward through breaking and mending, again and again. And your current incompleteness was never a barrier to your radiance. You're not waiting for some future day when you're fixed. You're already living, and that alone makes you sacred. So ask yourself, who are you? Are you the sum of your accomplishments and labels? Or are you the being who, even with nothing left, still chooses to treat yourself with tenderness? Are you the shadow shaped by others' expectations? Or the soul who dares to face your fears and keeps walking anyway? Maybe you'll never be fully healed in this lifetime, but that is not failure. That is the glory of being human. We are not loved because we're flawless. We are loved because, in all our imperfection, we still choose to love, to live, to trust. That's the meaning of your journey. Not to escape pain, but to dance with it. Not to chase the light, but to realize you are the light. Once you truly embrace this, you'll stop trying to prove your worth. You'll see that any moment can be a new beginning. Every scar can become a source of power. Every tear is a reunion with your truest self. You'll no longer fear failure because you know, even if you fall again, you can carry yourself back with grace. This is ultimate freedom. Not the absence of pain, but liberation from shame, judgment, and self-abandonment. To live fully with your whole self, unhidden and unafraid. So please, don't ask, will I ever be okay? Instead, ask, am I willing to start living fully, right now, as I am? Because the light has always been here. It's just been waiting for your yes.